You say the one movement and the one party. Could you just describe what you mean by that? Or
Sure. So if you look at our world, just to give an idea, like we're trying to fight for civil rights. This idea of equality has been fought for everywhere throughout every pretty much society, and is going on right now. And it's always the minorities, the some group that in America we see you know people of color, they say, in India it's the untouchables, you know what I mean, in China it's anybody that's not Chinese, whatever it may be, you know what I mean. So this idea of equality and equal rights for everyone is something that, again, I've studied all of human history, and it seems like we've been fighting this battle since the very beginning. You know what I mean? It's like everybody can't just begin to say, oh, this ethnic, let's fight for this ethnic group's rights, and then the next one and the next one. Either we're all equal or we're not. You know what I mean? We need to fight for all of our equal rights at the same time all over the world, and it makes us that much more powerful. So when I talk about the one movement, this is all the biggest issues of the world kind of joining, and it doesn't mean you stop these organizations all around, you just join them together, right? So then it's equal rights for everyone all around the world, and all the equal rights movements join together, and then we can help support each other. And once we have some type of unity, you know what I mean? It's like, look at this. In all of human history, we've never had an uprising where everybody in the world kind of does it at the same time, except in the last like 5 or 10 years or so. You know what I mean? You've seen these spontaneous, like the Wall Street one, right? It started in Wall Street, then it showed up in the Middle East and showed up here and there. You see these civil rights right now with the Black Lives Matter, showed up in England, showed up in, you know what I mean? This is the first time this has ever happened, and it happened like that. You know what I mean? This is the only time in human history that we can make these changes is happening right now, because we're all so focused. Let me just stop for a second. All the horror that's happening right now is really to get all these changes to happen, because if we don't, we're not going to make it. Okay, we're going to go into another horrible war and repeat the history over and over again. But our technology and the horrors that we can deliver with robotic war, nuclear war, poisons and chemicals and everything else is so unbelievably horrific that we're going to destroy too much of our society and people and everything else. So either we're going to kind of all wake up right now and make some global changes to get on the same page, or it seems like we're going to go down this horrible path again. So the one movement is about kind of joining all these people together and making these changes as a movement throughout the world. The one party is about a literal political party. It can start in America, but I wanted to kind of go all over the world. And it's about making government work, period. It's, forget the fringe issues for a minute. It's about integrating all the virtues that we hold dear into our government, efficiency, making sure that we're not spending money that we don't have, and all the rest of the problems that we see. And again, in America, we need a third party because we're in this two-team, red-blue war type situation. It's like it plays on our us versus them kind of tribal mentality, where if there's only two, it's like, just look at American sports. It's like football or baseball, whatever. If your local team has lost for 30 years, you're still a fan, right? You're still like, yeah, my team, right? That's what we have right now. And that's wrong in politics. We need to all be working towards the best solution. So the one party is about that. It's about making sure that the people in government are truly working for us and implementing the solutions that make government work, but also make the society work. Government can't do everything. You know what I mean? We make business work for us. We need to make people, help them have better lives so they can become their best selves and all the rest. So that's basically the kind of the idea. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does make sense. It kind of goes back to, you mentioned it, the historical tendency to do these us versus them conflicts.
Yeah.
And I suppose one of the solutions to that is just to help people understand that amongst most people in the world, basically everyone in the world, we have more in common with everybody than we do. There's more similarities than there are differences between everybody.
And just to speak to that point, that's kind of the foundation of the way. Is that while we all are very unique, right? We occupy our own space-time, right? We're think differently, we look differently, speak different languages, different genders, all these kind of things. At the same time, all that's true. We all need to eat and sleep and communicate and interact with our society, and we do mainly the same things every day. That's what the foundations of life are called in here. we all need to understand certain principles if we're going to be the best we are. We also need to take care of our bodies in a certain way if we're going to be our best. We also need to interact with other people in our society and help formate, help our work evolve, help our government evolve, and all the rest of it if we're going to live a great life. So to get there, though, since we're born ignorant, we all need to kind of have the basic knowledge, and that's the biggest problem in our society that I see, is that we all share all these similarities, but we're not integrating the best practices. Maybe I should say this. The way, in 4 words, is living rational positive action. It's living because we do it all the time. It's something you live, right? It's living rational because it's reasonable, it's logical, it's a customizable implementation plan that is your life, So it's living rational positive because it's about integrating virtue into your life. And virtues are what we hold in highest regard. These are, like being disciplined and faithful and positive and happy and healthy and all the rest of the desirable traits that you can imagine. There's a huge list of them. They're in the book, that we're trying to all master. And then it's living rational positive because to make a virtue real, you need to take steps to make it into your life. And we call these like the best ones, the best practices. So for example, the virtue of being punctual would require you to take steps and actions like leaving on time, setting reminders. To live the virtue of being healthy, you need to eat right and have an exercise program and all these other action items, right? And there's best practices in there. There's certainly there are ways to consume water that will make you better, consume light, and all the rest of those aspects. So if we can integrate these as kids and help our kids grow this way, and we can get this knowledge for us, we can improve ourselves, our society as we go forward. And that's kind of the idea. And it spans so many different aspects of life. And this is what made the way so complicated for me, is because for you to be your best, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in your work, in your relationships, in your society, you need to integrate so many little pieces of information in all these different genres to be your best. And who wants to spend their time reading 1,000 books and going through all this crazy stuff? By the time you're 30, 40 years old, you're like, wow, I just realized something that I should have known when I was 10. It's like, it just makes me sick. And I spent so much time reading all of these books to come to some realizations, to simplify it so we can all just integrate it without like, oh, I have to study Freud for 15 years to understand how my mind works. No, you don't. You know what I mean? The same thing with your body or the way the society works, or wealth or power, success, whatever you name it, it's in here. So for me, again, it all comes down to us kind of being on the same page regarding these basics and foundations of life. And I put a challenge out there, and I haven't heard anybody disagree with anything that's in this book yet. Okay, so they may not like, because I'm not a super great writer sometimes. I mean, people said they really like the way I write. Let me say it to you this way. I went into a lot of different publishers with this book. They had a group of them, and they had this meeting, and they said, this book is like no other book that they've ever seen written. They've never, I don't know if anybody would ever write a book like this. So it was a trip to them. They were like, they weren't sure if they should publish it, but it was so unique that they felt like they should. So this isn't a book like other books. This is humanity's way of becoming our best and creating a better world. It's simplified and giving you the down low without having to spend the rest of your life trying to figure all this stuff out. I did it. So save you a lot of time.
Yeah. So what would you say would be a good way to fix the way that, our government currently functions, both maybe a quick fix and more of a long-term fix as well? Like something we could do now versus something,
You're breaking up a little bit, just so you know. I think I got that long-term, short-term fix on our government. I think that this kind of fix needs to happen worldwide, because no country is an island. You know what I mean? It's like, if we get our act together and then, some other big country decides to throw off nukes or just build endless coal plants and destroy the environment, we're all going to go down. So in America, I believe, again, that we need a new third party that is kind of a hybrid, but a new thing. It's like in business, you need to have a disruptor to come in and change things sometimes. These two parties are so old and ingrained in the way that they have operated and have been taken over, by fringes and extremists and
Hmm.
fractured and all these years. You know what I mean? They're no
Totally.
longer, I don't even know what they are anymore. And they're not working for the people. There's not one American that I've talked to lately that's been like, yeah, our government is awesome. You know what I mean? It's working great for us. No, it's not. So to fix it, and again, I've studied enough human history to know that we are going down a path to war right now. I just want you to know. I mean, it's if you hate on both sides, the other side, and you will not work with each other no matter what, we will end up in this hate fest, war, disintegrating America and all the rest. Uh, it's happened in every other country in time. It's like you need to have unity if you're going to have a country. And the problem is that we're being misled by a few leaders. We're truly not divided. Everybody I've ever talked to wants a good government. We want it to
Hmm.
work. We want our great lives. Certainly we don't want to be drinking poisoned water. Or, you know what I mean? We want everything to work, for God's sake. And it's like, so what are we divided about? We're being told we're divided because of this two-party extremist group that you belong to. But the truth is, none of us want what's happening. Do you want to go in $1 trillion in debt every year? Do you want your kids to, have a poor education? I mean, nobody wants those things. So, um, to me, it's like that's where the way comes in. We all need to get on the same page on the basics and then just implement these. It's not as complicated as all these leaders are making it out to be. They want you divided and confused and pissed off because they feel like that's how they get power and they could get more wealth and they can exploit you. But in reality, we want a government that's helping you be happy, and calm and be like, yeah, my kid is getting a good education. I know I'm going to be cared for when I get old. I'm not going to be on the street. You know what I mean? All these the idea is that as a society is, and again, I talk about this in the book, there's different levels to a society. So we start out savage, barbarian, civilized, enlightened, and what I call the true society. So we have kind of a mixed, obviously, world right now. There's literally people making houses out of, cow manure, and then we have people building buildings that are earthquake proof. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the dichotomy of what's happening in the world is incredible. Um, so this idea of elevating our society is the same thing with a person. We can be a savage level person, a barbarian who just looks to our tribe, more civilized, we're looking out for society, more enlightened, where we're, becoming a better person just naturally, and then truly our true self when we're living this life where we're really meant to be, as well as being enlightened and all the other good aspects. Um, the whole point is that it seems to me like throughout all of human history, there's two types of leaders. And this is like the huge test, like I was saying, this world is a training ground preparing us for a greater reality. The reason we can't like say, yes, God exists or doesn't exist, and know it for a fact and all the rest of it gives us free choice, right? If you knew heaven exists and God exists, exactly, you wouldn't have any choice. Be like, yes, I'm going to go that route because I want to go to
Hmm.
heaven. But
There needs
right
to be
now,
that
this whole,
uncertainty.
yeah, exactly. Uncertainty. We have no idea. While we don't know what's going to happen in the future, we also kind of do. You know what I mean? We're in this free choice realm, but it's also bound up in these human conditions. So, you know, as I was saying, that the two types of leaders are these leaders that are truly looking to help us, right? That are out there trying to become better people, admit mistakes, and try to figure the answers out. And then there's the other type where again, it's mostly men. It seems like I met some women like this too. I want to say, but that are all about putting their thumb over you. It's all about control. It's all about competition. They can't see anybody as equals. It's either they're above me and I need to try to bring them down, or they're below me and now I can smash them. You know what I mean? And I've
Hmm.
dealt with those kind of business people my whole life. And it seems like if you study all of human history, it's like the this idea of success being wealth, power, and fame is a big lie. It's really a challenge. Okay, it's not success. That's not what true success is. It's a challenge because when you have great wealth or great power and fame, you are either going to use it for good, or you're not going to do anything that's going to help the world, or you're going to just like stuff your house with gold and not care about anybody. That's one of the greatest type of leader. Look at all the kings and queens pretty much throughout history, throw away this food and their household. That sickness of superiority has shown up in every faith, every country throughout our entire history. It's what started World War I, World War II. You know what I mean? It's like every every revolution has happened because of these horrible leaders just keep pushing and pushing until the people just say enough. We can't take this anymore. You're clearly corrupted and destroying everything. People just keep failing the test. You know what I mean? It's like king after king after king just keeps killing and destroying their people and hoarding wealth instead of trying to cooperate and figure out the solutions and everything.
Okay. So going back to the party stuff. So
Yeah.
do we even really need parties at all? Just because that kind of, it's almost like a conflict of interest, because you're trying to serve the party more than you're trying to help the country, the people. Because one thing that I'm seeing a
Yeah.
lot is people, they keep consistently voting along party lines. Whether it's on a bill or if it's on a Supreme Court justice. It used to be, if you liked an idea, if you liked a bill or a justice or something, you'd vote for that thing. But now it's like, not only do you feel compelled, but people are telling you, no, you have to vote for the party this time. So you're just seeing
Yeah.
these exact splits where very few people ever go against that vote.
That's very true. And I agree with you. I'm an independent, so I get that whole idea.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that in our society, we need an organization sometimes to make change. So it's kind of like you can view this party as the independent, make government work again party, and not like a fringe where, we're about this fringe issue, you know what I mean? Or
Sure.
just some obtuse thing that nobody really doesn't mean anything, like, oh, we're for small government. Really? I'm for government that works. It may be big here and small here. And you know what I mean? I'm also for the government or the society working, and the government sets up how everything goes down, right? And that's what gets me about the problem with our government is they think like they're the answer, where it's really like, if you just set things up correctly, business and the people will be able to kind of make all this other stuff happen with their educational system. The government, we can go on and on about that. But the point is, the organizational structure will allow us to facilitate changes as well as to help. I envision this party this way. Let me see. Okay, so it's like our mission is to make government work again, embracing all the different types of virtues that we can integrate and really define consensus, but also true solutions. I don't care where they come from. When I've had these discussions with people, I don't care how right or left you are, it all boils down, if they're really passionate, to some type of virtue. I'll give you the wall example. I do this one a lot. On the right, it's law and order. You got to be here. You should be an American, so forth and so on. If you're going to, then on the left is but humanity. We need to care. We can't just be heartless and treat people with disdain. Those two things can go together. You know what I mean? It's not one or the other. You don't just have open borders and let everybody in no matter what, and pay all their bills and let them just live here. Or it's not close everybody out and treat them like like they're subhuman.
It's yin and yang.
Right, exactly. You need balance. You need this balance, and that's the problem with these parties. They become, and this happens with every organization that I study. It happens with religions. It happens with any organization that has these, I don't want to say, like some type of mandate or mission. What happens is the people in these organizations, the leaders, eventually become these people that are super fanatical, right? Like it's the guys that are so into it that yell the loudest that eventually sometimes take over this group. It's happened with faiths. It happens with fracturing of all the different religions. You can see, oh my gosh, how many different sects are there of Christianity and and everything else. So that's what's happened with these parties. The problem is they didn't splinter out and create like 5 or 10 different parties. What happened is it's like when the horrible popes took over the Christian religion, and they've said, no, Christ wants you to go down and kill everybody in his homeland and rape them and take all their wealth and bring it back to us. That's what Christ would want. He wants you to also torture all the people that believe in him, just in case, to make sure they're really following. No, you know what I mean? It's like, this is clearly wrong. So I think when we have a party too, it's about making sure that the people that represent the party stay faithful to the core mission. So you can become a member of the party, everybody can. But if you're going to represent the party, you're going to have to toe the line as far as like if you become so extreme, you're no longer part of the party. And we can have an internal structure, kind of a democracy within our party to figure out who's going to represent us, who's not. It's not like, oh, I'm going to be a Democrat and I'm going to run. No, if you want to run through our party, you're going to have to come through our democratic system within and pass our litmus test to be a representative of this party. and then we can back them up. I also see this as more too of a, I've been a recruiter in my past. I've built companies and businesses. Our government is like, I would say, it's like a sacred institution. We want it working as well and as efficient and, you know, without all the bottlenecks, problems, waste, you know what I mean? So we need good people in there. And I'd like to see it like, even if you don't work there your whole life, but maybe some of the best people in our society could see it as a service, where maybe you spend 5 years or 4 years helping out, fix whatever, you know, working in the system to help it work right. And, you know, it's like, how do I say this? It's like, if you were on a spaceship traveling through space, you would want everything working well. Your air conditioning, your, you know, your food systems. That's kind of what this world is like. You also want the structure of your little society and in the system working well. And not that it needs to be militaristic. Certainly, in a democracy, though, we need to have everybody kind of on the same page when it comes to some of these basic concepts of what we're trying to achieve. And we can't have leaders that are manipulating us into this frenzy of belief that are not true. You know what I mean? And or are exaggerated or are missing some of these other key facts. You know what I mean? We need to be the party that brings sense back into our government and more of a value-based, you know, I want to say extremist type of organization. And that's where I'm talking about the structure of the actual party itself having its own democracy and, you know, outside influences helping us keep it straight. And then having the leaders follow that mission plan, I think is what will help that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just fleshing this out. I want to say this is all new stuff and I need help to make it all real. So.
Sure. You need that structure, which is the party is along with its litmus test of who is going to be in there. Make sure that you're not too extreme. But also, you know, you need to have that little bit of, you know, spontaneity, a little bit of, you know, less structured ness.
Yeah.
In order to, you know, allow it to not be too rigid, you know, to push towards the other sides. You know, in any society, there's always, you know, there's always the two sides, you know, there's always, you know, there's the conservative and the liberal sides. And, you know, the conservatives are the ones that generally, you know, uphold more of the hierarchy, you know, and you have too much of that. And all of a sudden it grows, you know, too rigid. And, you know, maybe people are unable to advance enough through the different regions of the hierarchy. And then on the other side, there's the liberals that want to, you know, break stuff down. And, you know, if you have too much of that, then the whole thing falls apart. So, you know, you need to have that structure, but you also need it to be not so rigid, so well structured that, you know, no one can do anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the idea of kind of a free society. You know, I mean, what you're talking about.
Both sides are necessary.
Yeah.